Previously on X-Men. The Phoenix Saga. In 1976, the X-Men embark upon an emergency mission in space to rescue their fellow teammates. Their victory is cut short when they discover their ride back to Earth has been damaged, leaving it up to Jean Grey to sacrifice her life in order to save her fellow X-Men. She pilots the shuttle through a massive radiation storm whilst the rest of the team must stay in a shielded life pod. As Jean feels her life slipping away, she calls out and her prayer is answered by the Phoenix Force, a cosmic manifestation of all psionic energy, who bonds with her, allowing her to successfully crash land into Jamaica Bay, saving both the X-Men and herself. Now possessed with the powers of a god, Jean rejoins the X-Men. Together, they become involved in an alien empire's civil war when a rebel space princess comes to Earth seeking Charles Xavier's help against her mad brother, the Emperor Deken, who plans to weaponize the awesome power of the M-Cron crystal. The X-Men battle the Imperial Guard and stop Deken, only to find their efforts in vain with the entire universe in danger of blinking out of existence. It is here that Jean finally understands the true extent of her power as Phoenix, as she dives into the heart of the crystal and repairs its energy matrix, restoring the balance and saving the universe. Like any good comic book story worth its weight, the Dark Phoenix Saga is very rich and complex. There's a lot of moving parts here, so we're gonna have to abbreviate certain parts of this story.
Westchester County, New York, Professor Charles Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters.
My friends, we are home! About time too, Rusky.
So after the X-Men return home from saving the universe, they finally get a little bit of downtime and they make the most of it.
Swing batter! Swing batter! Come on, Alf, give him your fastball. The Rusky's an easy out.
Wolverine, shut up! Peter's been up twice already, and both times we've hit a home run.
With any luck, Kurt, he'll do it again.
X-Men, is this a game or a debate? Play ball.
Nightcrawler plans a date. Wolverine goes hunting in the woods out back.
Come on, Wolverine, we're taking a break.
What do you want from me, bub? A cheer? You take a break, Summers. I ain't tired.
Anyone ever tell you got a heck of a chip on your shoulder, old buddy? Colossus, he writes a letter to his family before going on a picnic with Myra and Sean and Storm. They all go swimming. They're having a great time.
Up you go, lass.
Sean Cassidy, no! And even Jean, her parents, come to the mansion. And this is a moment where she kind of officially comes out to her parents as a mutant because they have no idea that she's an X-Man, that she goes on these adventures. And they saw her with her powers when Firelord busted in the apartment. So like now she's kind of has to be like, hey, this is the deal.
They look scared stiff, Jean, though they're hiding it well.
And everybody's really worried about Jean, you know? I mean, her parents are worried, Scott's worried, and even Jean herself is worried because she feels like her power as Phoenix is just so overwhelming, to the point where she asks Xavier if she can rejoin the team, because if you remember, for a while there, she left the team to just be a normal person. But now, having all this crazy cosmic power, she's like, I gotta hang out with the X-Men now because I am not a normal person, and I need people here that can help me if things go wrong. I mean, can you imagine being a 20-something-year-old girl, you're just trying to figure your life out, and then you get the powers of a god? I mean, she's more powerful than Galactus. I mean, that's intense. That's a lot to deal with. And a lot of people have taken notice of this. Even some unsavory characters have been like, oh shit, look at her. She's got some power. So we're gonna begin our story with Magneto, the X-Men's primary villain. He defeated the new team of X-Men back in 1977, but they retreated, so he never got to finish them off, so he's been plotting his revenge ever since. And he finally comes forward, and he beats up the X-Men, captures them, and takes them to his secret base located inside a volcano in Antarctica.
Where Magneto walks, he walks alone. Animal! When the battle's done, you'll pay for this.
Colossus, put him down for the count.
Bon voyage!
Wahoo!
Who says you're gonna win?
She's nothing like she used to be. Much wilder, almost barbaric.
Now, during their escape, The Phoenix lets off a blast that's so powerful that it causes the volcano to collapse in on itself. And you have Magneto escaping in his little magnetic bubble deal, and then you have Jean and Beast who make it to the surface, and the rest of the X-Men are trapped inside. And unbeknownst to Jean and Beast, the other X-Men claw and punch and blast their way through a rock wall and into the Savage Land.
X-Men, welcome to the Savage Land.
What is the Savage Land? What's that?
The Savage Land is a perfectly preserved prehistoric jungle, complete with dinosaurs, prehistoric mammals, pterodactyls, and bizarre tribal peoples that have survived since prehistoric times, thanks to aliens who created a kind of wildlife preserve millions of years ago. However, they abandoned it at some unknown time in the past, but the machinery left operating preserves it still to this very day.
Kazar warned me about these giant pterosaurs, but I never dreamed they'd be so big! Holy Mother of God!
After the volcano collapse, Jean and Beast are stuck in the middle of the frozen-ass Antarctic, and luckily a helicopter sees Jean's Firebird and it comes to rescue them. So now Beast and Phoenix return home, and Jean has to tell Xavier that the other X-Men have died, which leaves Professor X just completely heartbroken.
All things die, Charles, and not always at the time and manner of our choosing.
I know, but I keep thinking, if I'd never formed the X-Men, if I'd only let them live out their lives in peace.
So much so that he gives up on his entire dream, and he leaves Earth to go live on the Shi'ar throne world Chandalar with Lilandra, leaving Beast to go back to his experiments and Jean all alone, so she decides to go live with Moira, Lorna, and Alex on Mur Island.
My taxi's waiting. I'd better get a move on. Are you sure you will not stay, Jean?
I can't, Lilandra. There are too many memories in this house.
Jean Grey suddenly finds herself shivering, and she realizes with a start that for the first time since joining the X-Men, she's on her own. And that scares the hell out of her.
Back in the Savage Land, Cyclops, Wolverine, Storm, Nightcrawler, Colossus, and Banshee spend a lot of time trapped there. They help out the locals, they get involved in Savage Land politics, they have some adventures featuring Kazar and Sauron, before finally finding a way out.
How does one find a way out of the Savage Land?
Well, they build a raft, and when they're in the ocean paddling towards Argentina, I don't know, they end up getting picked up by a barge that takes them all the way to Japan, where they meet up with their old friend Sunfire. And fun fact, this is where Wolverine first meets Mariko Yoshida, a major love interest, because he thinks Jean's dead, so he's open to other women right now.
I'm sorry I scared you. I'll go.
Oh no, please stay. The foot is mine. You speak Japanese very well for an American.
Anyways, so then they end up flying to Canada and they fight with Alpha Flight over Wolverine before finally returning back after a year and a half. They get back to the mansion only to find it completely empty. Nobody's home. And during this time period, this year and a half that the other X-Men are gone, Jean Grey is left all alone. She's mourning the deaths of her friends. They're more like her family even, and her lover Scott, the man that she was so in love with. And it's here that Jason Weingard, Mastermind, noting Jean's vulnerability, starts taking advantage of her and manipulating her into using her power for his own ends.
I had so much fun shopping, I lost all track of time. I hope Myra isn't mad. Oh!
Watch it, lass. Oh, here, let me help you. That was a nasty spill. Are you all right, Miss,
Grey. Jean Grey.
I'm Jason Weingard. Pleasure.
Who is Jason Weingard?
Okay, so Jason Weingard, the Mastermind, is a long-standing enemy of the X-Men, originating in X-Men issue number 4. His mutant power is the ability to cast powerfully realistic illusions via telepathy, and he's really good at this. So good at this that he can even fool someone like Charles Xavier, at least for a little bit. He can also make himself look and sound like other people with his illusions, or even to like blend into a wall. But he totally does this all the time too, because in reality, he's this like super busted, like greasy old man. So he's always making people see him as this like young, handsome guy with chops, you know, because he's like super vain.
Oh, so he's like an evil, ugly pickup artist.
Yes, but Jason is also kind of a failed villain. He was an off-again, on-again member of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, but that wasn't working out so well for him. So he essentially decides to try out for a position in the inner circle of the Hellfire Club.
What's the Hellfire Club?
So the Hellfire Club is kind of a big deal. It's like this really old secret society of 1%er types, and it's this kind of kinky networking sex club situation, kind of like Eyes Wide Shut. And within this secret society, there's another secret society called the Inner Circle of the Hellfire Club. And these people vie for personal power through any means necessary, okay? They're very Machiavellian.
How is your plan progressing, by the way? Do you think you have a chance of success?
Not think, Shaw. I know. The young lady hasn't realized it yet, but she's mine, body and soul.
And Jason Weingard's ultimate goal is to be admitted into this inner circle. And in order to have a chance at it, he kind of has to perform some impressive feat that brings new power into the fold. So after hearing about Jean's new badass cosmic powers, he thinks to himself, hey, maybe I should manipulate Jean into forgetting herself and becoming a villain and have her be the Black Queen of the Hellfire Club.
Though you've met me as Jason Weingard only once, you instinctively trust me. Soon that trust will turn to love. From the day you first met the X-Men, to your original Marvel Girl garb, to the older, wiser Marvel Girl, to Phoenix, and finally to the Black Queen. So shall I mold you, Jean Grey, until the day the Hellfire Club claims you for its own.
Because, you know, having a Phoenix on your team means winning.
Oh.
Yeah, you're gonna kick everybody's ass if you have a Phoenix on your team. It's not even a contest anymore. So Mastermind uses his ability at first just to get close to Jean. Like on her flight to Scotland after Professor X leaves, he disguises himself as a priest sitting next to her so he can give her an outlet to talk to someone safe about all her thoughts and feelings.
You don't know it, my dear, but I've been by your side ever since you left the safety of Xavier's mansion. First on your flight to Europe. Pardon me for prying, miss, but is anything the matter?
And he does this in many forms. He's always trying to get close to her, to get to know her better than she even knows herself. And later, when Jean goes on a Grecian vacation to get her groove back, he disguises himself as this super hot dude named Nikos and fills Jean's emotional void and gets to know Jean intimately.
And later, in many faces and forms, I tried to fill the emotional void within you until I came to know you better than you know yourself.
Why are you doing that parenthesis thing? What does that mean?
It's like they don't, in these comics, they don't tell you, they can't say that he boned her, but he boned her, you know, like filling the emotional void.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So he's like a ninja brain perv?
Yeah, more like a rapist, but yeah, if that's what you want to call it. It's fucking gross is what it is. So anyways, after Jean returns to Scotland from Greece, Jason feels like he finally knows her well enough and decides to kick up the manipulation up a few notches by casting illusions directly into Jean's mind, making her think that she's reliving the memories of a sadistic 18th century ancestor named Lady Grey, who is in the middle of running away with a man that she totally loves, and his name is Jason Weingard, and he looks just like Jason Weingard.
What, he can do that?
Not normally. He can only do this because the White Queen of the Inner Circle of the Hellfire Club created a device for him because she's a psychic, she's a telepath, so she knows how that shit works. She made him a device to where he can cast illusions directly into somebody's mind from far away.
In so many ways, Phoenix is the most powerful X-Men, yet also the most vulnerable.
Now, during this time, Professor X is millions of light years away in the Shi'ar Empire. And things aren't going necessarily as great as he was imagining, because the people of the Shi'ar Empire, really don't respect him. They think of Terrans kind of as lesser beings. Even though he's a super powerful mutant, they're just like, who, Earth? Who cares? They treat him as if he was Lilandra's pet, you know? So, they don't trust him. He doesn't have anything to do is the problem. He's up there, he's super smart. His friggin' girlfriend is running an entire empire, and he's just super bored all the time. So anyways, one day he goes to the library because he has nothing better to do. And he's reading some books, and he's sitting there, and he realizes in his grief that he abandoned Jean, and that she's gonna need him because she has powers far beyond anyone's ability to manage without serious side effects. So he's like, shit, I've made a total mistake, and I need to come home. So let's cut back to Scott and the rest of the X-Men. Okay, so we just talked about how they just got home, they find the mansion empty, nobody's there, even the phone's disconnected.
Hank?
Scotty?
Is it really you? You're alive! This is fantastic, but how did you escape?
Jeannie got me out.
Jean? Jean's alive?
You betcha, boss man. When Magneto's roof fell in, she formed a telekinetic force bubble around us and shot us up to the surface. We thought you were killed. Boy, is she ever gonna be surprised.
And when they finally get that shit back online, Scott decides to call Mur Island to try to find out where everybody is. But Lorna Dane picks up the phone, and right as she picks up the phone, she's attacked, and Scott totally hears it. So he's like, X-Men, let's get on the fucking Blackbird, and we gotta fly to Scotland, and they get there just in time to help the others dispatch Myra's surprise, super fucked up monster son named Proteus, who is on the loose possessing and killing innocent folks.
You enjoy causing pain, death. Before I met you, I never understood evil. You are evil, Proteus.
And on Muir Island, Scott and Jean are finally reunited during the fight with Proteus, but it isn't until after they get rid of him that they really have a moment to talk to each other about it. And it's on their flight back to New York where they decide to declare their undying love for one another and resume their romance because, while the year and a half that they were apart, Jean had some flings, Scott had a thing with Colleen Wing going on, but they're like, whatever, it doesn't matter. I love you, you love me, and we're back together, finally! And it's so cute.
Yay!
Yay! And when the X-Men return to the mansion, they are surprised to discover that Professor X has returned from space. So the team and everyone is finally back together again for the first time in years.
Professor Xavier, you're back!
Greetings, my X-Men. It is so very good to see you again, to know that you are alive and well.
And now that everybody's reunited, they're all starting to get back into the groove of being together. The X-Men spend some time training in the Danger Room.
Cerebro's contact alarm.
Later, the Cerebro scanner alerts the X-Men when it picks up 2 new mutants, one in Chicago and the other in New York City.
What is Cerebro?
Cerebro is a device that can be used by telepaths, and it amplifies mind energy and can find mutants using the power of psychotronics. It was first introduced all the way back in X-Men number 7, where it was originally created by Professor X and Magneto, but later amplified by Beast. At first, it operated off of punch cards in Xavier's office, but later it becomes a giant spheroid room. So when the X-Men aren't trying to stop other mutant villains from taking over the world, they like to take on the responsibility of using Cerebro to try to find and recruit new mutants, because at this point in history, mutants are a new thing, okay? So a lot of people don't even know about them at all. And so if you are one, you might not have any clue of what's going on.
She's been having these headaches for weeks now. The attacks steadily increasing in frequency, duration, and intensity.
This one's the worst ever. Please, God, I'm only 13 and a half. I can't be dying. I'm in the living room? How'd I get here? Last thing I remember, I was lying on my bed.
So what the X-Men try to do is find these people, tell them about their powers, tell them that they're mutants, say that we're mutants too, and offer them the chance to join the X-Men so Xavier can teach them how to use their powers responsibly if they want to join. So the X-Men decide to split up into 2 teams to find and possibly recruit the mystery mutants. But unbeknownst to them, the Hellfire Club has secretly placed a tap on Cerebro in order to scoop up the new mutant recruits for themselves.
The Hellfire Club has a tap on his precious Cerebro, and every scrap of data in its memory banks is ours for the asking. What's your next move, Shaw?
We'll contact those mutants, just as Xavier plans to. Only the Hellfire Club will get there first, and recruit them, by hook or by crook.
So Xavier, Wolverine, Storm, and Colossus decide to go to Chicago, where they find Kitty Pryde, a 13-year-old Jewish girl who can phase through solid matter in her first appearance. So exciting.
We got black kids in my school, Aurora, but none of them look like you. I mean, white hair and blue eyes.
So far as I know, Kitty, I'm one of a kind. And so are you.
You mean because I'm so smart?
No, something else. Kitty, have you ever heard of the X-Men?
This ain't no library, fella. You want to read the magazine? Buy the magazine.
I don't like being tapped, bud, or ordered around. Wolverine, no.
I don't like people reading without paying. Want to make something of it?
I thought you'd never ask. Wolverine, behind you!
Telepathic force bolt assaulting our minds.
With a smile, Emma Frost, the White Queen, watches them fall.
They're unconscious. Load them aboard the hovercraft.
Yes, ma'am. But are captured by the White Queen Emma Frost and taken to Frost Industries. Also first appearance.
What's White Queen do?
Okay, so White Queen is a member of the inner circle of the Hellfire Club. She is also a very powerful telepath, and she's kind of a snobby bitch. Kitty escapes in the confusion, and she contacts the other half of the X-Men, who are currently at a shady disco searching for their target, while Mastermind also happens to be at the same club searching for his target, Jean Grey.
So far, I've nothing to show for tonight but 3 drunken passes and a comment that my dress is tacky. Scott isn't doing any better. I wonder if Cerebro could have made a mistake.
Excuse me, miss. I was right. It is you. Hello again. Do you remember me? I'm Jason Weingard. We met in Stornoway.
Oh, yes, So on the dance floor, Mastermind casts a new illusion into Jean's mind where she once again becomes Lady Grey, now reliving her wedding ceremony to Weingard, where she's revealed to be the Black Queen of the Hellfire Club of yesteryear,
Long may she reign.
before passionately kissing her new husband, when all of a sudden Jean snaps out of it and finds herself kissing the man from her time slips in the here and now. And Cyclops is like, what the fuck? But is immediately interrupted, cannot confront her, when the mutant that they're searching for comes on stage, and surprise, it's Dazzler in her very first appearance. Oh my gosh, so exciting. A lot of her first appearances. And Dazzler is my favorite mutant. She's a badass disco singer that has the ability to turn sound waves into light particles. But enough about her. Let's get back to the story.
Who in the blazes?
So anyways, the Hellfire Goons show up in these crazy mech suits and they try to capture the X-Men, but Nightcrawler, Phoenix, Cyclops, and Dazzler manage to escape and make their way to Chicago. They find Kitty, infiltrate Frost Industries, rescue their teammates, and even manage to recruit Kitty Pryde. Call me Dazzler, darling. That's my name. That's what I do. Dazzle people.
Have you ever wondered where your light powers come from?
Nope.
You're a mutant, Dazzler. You have powers and abilities that set you apart from the rest of humanity. And as you just seen, there are people who will stop at nothing to capture or kill you.
Are you serious?
Look around you, Dazzler. You tell me. For your own safety, I think you better come with us.
But what's really interesting about this adventure is during this time, Jean keeps using her powers with less and less abandon. And it's starting to scare Scott and Aurora. Like, they've totally noticed.
Like what kind of stuff is she doing?
Okay, for example, earlier in the story, Cyclops asks her to stop a car, and then she ends up just completely demolishing it, injuring the Hellfire Goons inside.
What have you done? I told you to stop that car, not turn it into instant junk.
You didn't feel the girl's stark terror, Scott, or the thoughts of the killers chasing her. I'm a telepath. I did. These animals got no more than they deserved.
And then later on, she puts the car back together like it's nothing. And then she also psychically puppets those goons that she injured. And she also keeps all of the X-Men in telepathic communication during the fray with like total precision and ease. And then the thing that's really scary is when Phoenix confronts the White Queen, she ends up playing with this poor woman like a cat with a mouse.
All they'll find when they reach this chamber is a mindless thing, human only in physical form. You, Storm.
Is that so?
Who? Phoenix?
The one and only. And you're Emma Frost, the Hellfire Club's White Queen. I understand you call yourself something of a telepath. Well, Your Majesty, let's see how good you really are. I mean, she ends up leaving Emma in a fucking coma. And Storm, who witnesses this entire fight, is terrified of Jean. I mean, she sees her personality shifting, And what's most disconcerting about this entire story is when Jean changes the memories of Kitty Pryde's parents in order to get them to willingly send their daughter to Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters. That's like a huge no-no.
Good morning, Mr. Pride.
Shut it, mister! What have you been doing with my daughter? She goes over your students and disappears? You disappear? The malt shop was burned to the ground?
No need
What
to
if she'd
make
been
a fuss.
killed?
I'm
So the police
okay.
identified the bodies they found? I don't know what your game is, mister, but...
Enough's enough.
It's good to see you again. My wife and I were very impressed by your presentation yesterday. In fact, we've been discussing you and your School for Gifted Youngsters quite a bit since you left.
That's so nice to hear, Mr. Pride.
Call me Carmen.
Jean, you didn't.
Just doing what comes naturally. I know you don't approve of me or the professor using our psi powers like this, Scott, but Kitty's father wasn't about to listen to reason, so to spare everyone a lot of unnecessary grief, I modified his and his wife's memories a little. No harm done, and there's an end to it.
We have brunch makings in the fridge. You're all welcome to join us.
Also, a fun thing to notice is that her clothing choices are becoming more and more provocative as the story progresses, and so are her kisses with her old teammates.
Thanks for taking us in, Warren, especially on such short notice.
My pleasure. Besides, it's good to see you again. Make yourselves comfortable, group. My home is yours.
It is a beautiful home, Angel. And beautiful country. Colossus, these hills ain't nothing compared to the Canadian Rockies. Now that's beautiful country.
You're looking good, Blondie.
Keep this up, Jean. We're liable to make Scott jealous.
Why are they kissing like that?
And I love the implications of this panel because Angel's always had a thing for Jean, and now that she's all like juiced up with all these powers, you know, kind of her sexuality is coming out a little bit more. So what normally would be more of a friendly kiss between the two seems to be a little bit more spicy than normal.
Spicy.
Yeah. But this aside, the X-Men have come to New Mexico to stay with Warren because Cyclops suspects that the mansion is being spied on, which he's totally right. And he's like, Warren, I need to talk to you. So Angel flies them both to the top of a butte and they talk in private. And Scott confides in him about what's happened in New York and Chicago, how they believe the Hellfire Club is behind this recent string of attacks. And Warren surprises Scott when he admits that he himself has a membership to the Hellfire Club that he inherited from his father, and that he's even been there with his girlfriend Candy, and that he thinks it's just a risque club for rich people and doesn't believe Scott that they're behind anything. Now, before Scott can tell Warren about how he's worried about Jean, Phoenix flies up with a picnic basket, and Angel totally takes the hint and makes himself scarce, while Jean and Scott finally get to share some much-needed alone time.
You're brooding.
It's what I do best, and I've got a lot on my mind.
Didn't you hear me? It's time for a break. Stop being Cyclops, leader of the X-Men for a while. Try being Scott Summers, lover of Jean Grey. Who knows, you might even enjoy yourself.
And this moment is one of my favorite moments in this whole story. It's so romantic. I absolutely love it. So, while they're on top of this butte in the middle of the desert all by themselves, the sun is setting, they're completely alone, and Jean decides to casually just take off Scott's visor, and he freaks out, and he's like, "What are you doing? I could totally kill you." And she's like, "Open your eyes, baby. I can hold him back with my Phoenix power." And so he does, and she gets to see his face for the first time without glasses. And he and Scott gets to see the woman he loves for the first time without having to fear like hurting her or possibly killing her with his eye blasts. And then they make passionate love, and afterwards Jean asks Scott if he would be down with her installing a permanent psychic rapport between the two of them, where she's always in his brain and he's always in her brain, and Scott immediately accepts without skipping a beat. So unhealthy, but so hot. Super toxic. That should never happen. Like in the real world, that would be like the worst idea ever. But like in the comic books, it's so hot.
A week passes, and our scene shifts eastward 2,000 miles from New York desert to the man-made canyons of Manhattan.
So in order to find out whether or not the Hellfire Club has indeed been a part of the attacks on them in Chicago and New York, and whether they're spying on them, the X-Men decide to infiltrate one of their big parties on 5th Avenue in Manhattan. You have Wolverine and Nightcrawler in their costumes. They take the sewers, so they're gonna like try to go in through the back door. while Jean, Scott, Peter, and Aurora all dress up in like nice party clothes, and they decide that they're just kind of like walk in the front door and get in the party and then just search around in the party.
Like Tom Cruise in Eyes Wide Shut?
Yes, exactly like Tom Cruise in Eyes Wide Shut.
Aurora, even I have heard of some of the people here. Some of them are my countrymen. How could such as they plot the destruction of the X-Men?
That's what we're here to find out, Peter. We're both bait and trap.
Sure, all of you, the monitor screen. Look who's here.
However, the inner circle immediately sees them on their monitors, like they know who they are.
Like Tom Cruise in Eyes Wide Shut?
Yes, like Tom Cruise in Eyes Wide Shut. And they challenge Mastermind to finally really prove his worth.
What a pleasant surprise! Jean Grey and Scott Summers, Phoenix and Cyclops of the X-Men. Pierce, search the club. If they're here, the other X-Men can't be far away.
Because he's been going around like professing that Jean is his body and soul. So Sebastian Shaw, who's the leader of the inner circle, is like, well, guess what? She's here. Why don't you have her lead an attack and help us capture the X-Men? So Weingard now has to put up or shut up. So he decides to go downstairs. He cuts in on Scott and Jean on the dance floor. He casts a new illusion in Jean's mind.
Jason Weingard gathers Jean in his arms and sweeps her away, and as he does, reaches into Jean's mind, and once more turns the clock back 200 years.
And like, he just instantly sweeps her off her feet. Like, she's just totally in it. She's totally here. She goes with him. He starts taking her up the stairs. And Scott is like, what the fuck is going on?
That's Jason Weingard. And now, one look at him and it's as if I don't exist anymore.
He knows about these time slips. Jean's told him about them, so he's like really suspicious of what's going on. He's following them up the stairs and realizes that Jason is really Mastermind. But before he can alert anybody else, Jean, now in her full Black Queen mode, totally blasts Scott unconscious.
So she's just turned into the Black Queen instantly, just like that?
Well, Mastermind has been working on Jean for years at this point, and just because she has the powers of a god, it doesn't mean that, like, she's invulnerable to manipulation and psychic attacks and things like that. I mean, she's still just a 20-something-year-old girl. She's very naive about a lot of things. And so finally, Jason, like, gets her to completely disassociate from herself and become this character. She's fully immersed in this illusion that she's the Black Queen of the Hellfire Club of the 1800s. Like, she's not even in the same time period right now. She thinks she's in the 1800s.
Wow. Oh, yeah.
So Storm and Colossus know something's gone terribly wrong. They zap into their costumes and they go try to find out what's going on with Scott. They're immediately captured by Sebastian Shaw. Then you have Nightcrawler down below. He's captured by an Inner Circle cyborg named Donald Pierce. And Wolverine is flushed down the sewers by another Inner Circle member named Harry Leland. And now that the Inner Circle has finally captured the X-Men victorious, they raise a toast to their new Black Queen.
As chairman of the Inner Circle, I, Sebastian Shaw, propose a toast to the Hellfire Club and our Black Queen. Long may she reign!
Okay, suckers, you've taken your best shot. Now it's my turn!
And it's at this point where Wolverine finally gets to have this super rad solo adventure. He doesn't have Cyclops or Xavier telling him what to do. He just goes around, he totally cuts loose. He starts slicing and dicing Hellfire goons like it was nothing. Just going through them like butter. And he even has this like really awesome Dirty Harry moment where he's just like, do you feel lucky, Hellfire Goon?
Only one goon left.
Don't move, fella.
He's scared. Can't say I blame him either. Let's see if I can make him feel worse. Hey, bub, I know what you're thinking. He's hurt and he's 5 meters away from me, and I got a full clip of ammo in my rifle. Question is, can I kill Wolverine before he can reach me and cut me into shish kebab with those freaky claws of his? Well, bub, Wolverine is virtually unkillable. And 5 meters of floor ain't much distance at all for me.
And the guy like gets really nervous and like drops his gun. It's like too good.
Shoot, I was hoping you'd go for it.
Meanwhile, the captured X-Men are being held all together in a room among the Inner Circle. And during this time, Scott has this like really kinky like gimp helmet put on so he can't use his blasts. And he's like desperately trying to find a way to shock Jean out of this illusion, and he remembers the psychic rapport that she installed in New Mexico. So what he attempts to do is enter her mind to free her from this illusion.
Wait, what? Goes in her mind?
Yes, this is totally like Inception, where you have Jason casting this illusion in Jean's mind and he's there with her, and then you have Cyclops who enters inside of her mind, and then they get in a tussle and Mastermind challenges him to a sword fight, and they have to have this dramatic duel for Jean's psyche.
Okay.
Yeah, this is something that happens in the X-Men. That's one of my favorite things, is when they go into each other's minds and have like weird psychedelic adventures. So it's a thing, it happens. But this is like the first time that Scott's ever done anything like this. Now Scott, being new to the mental plane, is not nearly as adept as Weingard, who ends up totally thrashing him and impaling him with his sword, winning the duel. And in real life, Cyclops falls over seemingly dead. And now Jason is just like on cloud nine, man. I mean, everything he's been working towards, he believes has come to fruition. He's captured the X-Men. He's totally gonna be in the inner circle of the Hellfire Club. And now he believes that Jean, seeing Scott die, will cut her off completely from the X-Men, and that she'll be the Black Queen now and forever.
So that's it? The story's over? He won? The bad guys won?
Not exactly. Jason is a little arrogant here, okay? And he makes a huge fucking mistake, because when Jean sees Scott die in her mind, the shock of seeing the man that she loves, like the love of her life, being killed is essentially like a cold bucket of water in her face, and it wakes her up to this illusion. And she's like, holy shit, what's going on?
He's it, folks! The name's Wolverine!
And right as she wakes up, Wolverine busts through the door, covered in Hellfire footmen.
Black Queen, stop Wolverine!
That, Jason, will be a pleasure!
Jeannie, what are you doing? Jean, don't!
And Jean uses Wolverine's appearance to cause a distraction. She uses her telekinetic powers, she flings Wolverine across the room, but while everyone's watching this, she also uses her telekinetic powers to break the locks on Scott's ruby quartz gimp helmet, allowing him to use his optic blast to free his other teammates. And then there's just a total free-for-all fight now with the inner circle of the Hellfire Club.
I snatched you a book to be child's play.
What? Nightcrawler! Your swashbuckling overconfidence will be the death of you!
I've lost my telepathic tap on Jean's mind, but how? I anticipated every contingency.
During the fray, Jean is finally completely awake, and she's finally beginning to understand all of the things that have been happening to her for the past 2 years, and the just fucking depth of the manipulation, okay, and how she's been violated, both psychically and physically, by fucking Mastermind.
You made a mistake, Jason. You slew the man I love before my eyes. Instead of severing my last connection with the X-Men, that acted like a bucket of ice water in my face.
And she is fucking angry, okay? She is so mad. She's never been more upset in her entire life. And so she goes and she finds Mastermind hiding like a bitch in a room, okay? He's like making himself look like the wall.
Instead of enslaving me forever, you shocked me awake. You set me free. Too late.
No, I compensated for that reaction. My powers, they should
Your
have...
power is nothing! Do you have any idea what you've done? What forces you've set in motion? You came to me when I was vulnerable. You made me trust you, perhaps even love you, and all the while you were using me!
And Jean decides that death alone is not a fitting punishment for what this man has done to her. She wants Mastermind to suffer. And because he was trying so hard to like manipulate and use her cosmic powers for his own ends,
through me you sought power! I'll give you power, Jason Weingard, such as no living being has ever dreamed of!
Please, no!
She decides to give him a taste of what it would be like to be a god. And he experiences the infinite, okay? He becomes a god for just a moment, and he sees all the conflicting truths of the universe. He experiences cosmic madness, and it leaves him a gibbering idiot. His mind is totally turned to slush. So now, the police are en route because, the Hellfire Club is still just a kind of a kinky sex club, and they've called the cops because they see all these fucking crazy costume people running around. So the X-Men have to book it out of there. They all get on the jet.
Here come the boys in blue. Better late than never. Aurora, what trouble's Scott? He seems so driven all of a sudden, like a man possessed.
I know, Peter. We're all alive, unhurt, free. You'd think that would make him happy.
Oh, Scott, your mind's an open book to me. I know your feelings, your thoughts, what you're trying to do, but it's too late, my darling, for me, for us, for everything.
And while they're on a jet, they're in safety. Jean finally has a moment to take a breather, and all of these things that have happened to her, all of these dark things that have been going on, really start hitting her. I mean, if you think about it, it's like she realizes how she was been raped and manipulated by this guy who is like supposedly, comforting her during all of her torment, and he's really just some fucking villain, Okay, so that's gotta make you feel terrible, okay? That's horrifying. She's also thought Cyclops was dead for a while, then he came back, then she sees him killed in her mind, which makes her think he's dead again, which shocks her another time, and then she finds out that he isn't, but that's still a lot to fucking deal with. Then you also have the fact that she feels like she's been enjoying those illusions that Jason Weingard put in her mind. Like she was enjoying tasting the dark side, and she knows that she enjoyed destroying Jason's mind when she made him taste the infinite. Like she liked it, and she doesn't know what to do about that. Like she doesn't even understand that she could enjoy doing something like that. And because of all of these things, the weight of all of these events just compound upon her.
We ought to be flattered. Looks like they rounded up an army to take us on.
Against an army, Wolverine, you would have at least had a hope of survival. Against me, you have none.
Janie?
What? Oh no. No.
Gods of the earth and air.
And the dark, repressed part of her psyche comes forth, and she becomes the Dark Phoenix. No longer am I the woman you knew. I am fire and life incarnate. Now and forever, I am Phoenix!
What is a Dark Phoenix?
The Dark Phoenix is the personification of the unconscious impulses and desires that Jean refuses to acknowledge within herself. In other words, it's her shadow self. According to psychologist Carl Jung, everyone carries a shadow, and the less it is embodied in the individual's conscious life, the blacker and denser it is. If you think about it, Jean has identified herself as one of the good guys her whole life and actively opposes dark forces. So when her repressed side is triggered by all of this massive trauma, whilst also channeling the power of a god, she is transformed into the Black Angel, the Chaos Bringer.
Ooh.
And the Dark Phoenix explodes the jet. All of the X-Men come tumbling to the ground. They regroup, and then Jean starts fighting them, and they're all they're so confused. The X-Men are like, what is going on right now?
Why are you attacking us? For pity's sake, Jean, why?
Ask not for pity from Dark Phoenix, my love. There is none in her.
Jean's enjoying using her power, acting on her like the ultimate emotional, physical stimulant. We have to stop her, but how?
She hits them 100 different ways at once.
Why is she fighting them?
Okay, so the Dark Phoenix is fighting the X-Men because the X-Men are Jean's family. And this Dark Phoenix is like a disassociated personality, okay? This Phoenix wants nothing to do with Jean or her past life or her friends or lovers, okay? She is like, fuck that shit, I'm totally new, I'm totally dark, and I'm gonna cut myself off from these people. And so she thoroughly trounces them. She beats them without even breaking a sweat, and then she announced to them very dramatically,
I didn't want this, my dear ones, and yet it was something I had to do. By striking you down, I cut myself free of the last ties binding me to the person I was, the life I led. You and I are quits now, X-Men. Our paths will cross no more. My destiny lies in the stars.
Phoenix! Saints preserve us!
So Dark Phoenix blasts off into outer space, and as she does this, she lets off a power signal so great that it is noticed by the Silver Surfer far away in space. Reed Richards obviously picks it up because he's got all his instruments all the time. You have Doctor Strange who senses it, and even Spider-Man's spider sense goes off when this happens. Okay, he's like, what the fuck is going on right now? Yeah, she's blasting off through space,
She's just like going as hard and as fast as she can. She's just like pow, right through Jupiter, right past Saturn. She's trying to get as far away from Earth as she can. And she realizes that she's not getting far away enough fast enough. So she's like, I know, I'll create a Stargate like I did with the Imkron crystal. So she creates this Stargate, she blasts through into a galaxy far, far away. I mean, like totally off, like we don't even know where the fuck she is. And as Dark Phoenix, Jean loves using her power. I mean, she just uses it like, just without abandon, okay? She's at full Phoenix strength and doesn't give a shit. Because remember when she was regular Phoenix, she had put power blocks on herself psychically. She was scared to use her powers. She didn't really want to use them unless it was a crazy event like the Imkron crystal that she was not going to open up the full throttle of the Phoenix. But as Dark Phoenix, she is all about it. And so when the Dark Phoenix creates this Stargate, just like when she created a Stargate last time, she's super tired from it. Like, it's really taxing to do something like that. It requires a lot of energy. So when she comes out on the other side, she realizes that she's tired and that she needs more energy. She's very drained from this effort. And she sees a nearby sun. And she goes, oh, perfect, that looks great. And she dives right into the heart of it, consuming the star, destroying a nearby inhabited planet, killing 5 billion people. Because she needed a snack.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's like that. So these poor Dabari aliens, the entire Dabari solar system has been wiped off the universe, okay? It's just completely gone. Now, the Dabari system just happens to be a part of the Shi'ar Empire. And there also just happens to be a near Shi'ar Empire battle cruiser who's like the best, newest battle cruiser that they've ever made, and it's on its maiden voyage, okay? I mean, this is like a badass warship. And they pick up the disturbance. I mean, they see the planet explode, and they were like, we just checked on that sun earlier. There was nothing wrong with it. What's going on? And they see the Dark Phoenix fly by, laughing, and they're like, holy shit, this lady just destroyed the sun and this planet.
What are they gonna do?
Okay, so they decide to engage her. They start flying after her.
Well, that's not a good idea.
Definitely. They don't know who they're fucking with. They start flying after her. They start fucking shooting things at her. They contact Lilandra, the Magistrix of the Shi'ar Empire. They wake her up. She comes to the console. She sees them, and they're like, Lilandra, like, what's going on? This thing just killed the Dabari peoples. And she sees the giant phoenix just coming towards this ship, and the ship explodes. And Lilandra witnesses Jean destroying one of her own starships, and now has complete proof that Jean has gone dark. And now Lilandra must make the difficult decision with her fellow counselors as to what to do with Jean, a force so powerful that she threatens the entire galaxy and must be dealt with.
Now it seems the child is beneficent no longer, and I fear as well that she means to pick up where my brother left off. Ministers of the Empire, if the universe is to survive, Phoenix must be destroyed.
Meanwhile, back on Earth, Cyclops feels the presence of the Dark Phoenix returning due to his psychic rapport. And so the X-Men are just trying to shake off their last bout with the Dark Phoenix and get ready for their second round with her. And Beast has even decided to come in. He rejoins the team and is working on creating a power dampener helmet to help them against her.
Beast is back!
Beast is back. While he was on console at the Avengers Mansion, he saw that the X-Men were in a tangle with the Hellfire Club, and so he's like, I gotta help out my homies. Peace out, Avengers. See ya. X-Men come first.
This house on Annandale Road is where Jean Grey was born, where she grew up. She left here years ago to become the X-Man Marvel Group.
So now, the Dark Phoenix returns from space, and she decides to visit her childhood home. Her mom and her dad and her sister are there. It's the middle of the night, and I feel like maybe she decided to go home because even though the Dark Phoenix is its own entity, Jean is still inside of there, and Jean is still witnessing all these horrible things that the Dark Phoenix is doing, and she's terrified, and that part of her is homesick and just totally upset at what's going on. And so that part of her drives her back to her house. But of course, as usual, when you go visit your parents,
When you're a little bit older, they can sometimes be really annoying, and they totally are.
You look thin, Jean. Are you eating enough?
I'm fine, Mom.
I'm not fine. Get out of my mind, all of you. Get out, get out. I never should have come here. I can read Mom's love for me, her concern. But beneath that, on a primal level, buried so deeply she probably doesn't even aware the feeling exists. She's scared of me.
And as the Dark Phoenix, she can see through her parents entirely. She knows all of their thoughts. There's no secrets being kept from her. And she can feel how her entire family is terrified of her. And that just makes her feel even worse and just like brings up more and more of these dark feelings that the Dark Phoenix is just feeding off of.
It's awful late for an impromptu visit, Jean. Is anything wrong?
Dad's worried about me, but he's as edgy as Mom. And Sarah's terrified. She has 2 kids. She knows that I'm a mutant. She's wondering if they're mutants too, if they're gonna turn out like me. Well, what's so wrong with that? I'm Dark Phoenix. I am power incarnate. I hold the fate of the universe in my hands. Can't help myself. I don't want to anymore. I'm reacting to their thoughts, not their words. You fear me, all of you, and with good reason. What I do to this plant, I can just as easily do to you.
Good grief!
She turned it into a crystal.
Who are you? What are you? In heaven's name, what do you want from us?
I am what I am. I was your daughter.
No! You're not mine. Not any part of me. I deny you. I cast you out.
Dad, no, please.
Watch your tone with me, old man. You dance with death and worse. So the X-Men show up outside of Jean Grey's parents' house. And Jean knows it. I mean, there's a fog going on. She knows that Storm's out there, and she goes out there to try to kick their asses. You have Nightcrawler bamfing, and he puts the power dampening helmet right on her head, like he totally gets her.
That scream! It's hurting her!
She's still fighting them. You know, she still has strength, though. This doesn't completely dissipate her power. And there gets to a point where Wolverine gets his hands on her finally.
She's still too strong for us, and getting stronger all the time. I got no choice. I gotta end this permanently. Forgive me, darling.
Do it, Wolverine! Strike while the human part of me is still in control! Getting ready to impale her, you know, and take care of this business. When Jean's personality emerges, coming through, and she begs him to kill her. She's like, kill me, Wolverine, kill me. But because he sees that it's Jean and that she's still inside of there, he just can't do it, okay? So he hesitates.
For an instant, Jean was back. I couldn't.
What a pity, Hank. I've overloaded your precious scrambler. And when he does that, the Dark Phoenix takes over once again and destroys the power dampener helmet, like completely. She then turns on her friends, capturing all of them, you know, holding them in place. But Cyclops is still on the loose, and he pops out and he challenges her. Have you come to fight? I hope so.
I came to talk.
I won't listen.
Then kill me. I can't stop you. I won't even try. Be true to your malefic destiny, Phoenix. Kill me, if you can. But if you can't, then ask yourself why. You're Dark Phoenix, power incarnate. No force in existence can stand against you. The X-Men have defied you, fought you, yet we live. Why?
You're not worth killing.
That's one answer, but there's another. True, you're the Dark Phoenix, but you're also still Jean Grey. No matter how hard you try, you can't exercise that part of yourself. It's too fundamental. You can't kill us because you love us, and we love you.
Dark Phoenix knows nothing of love.
Oh? For the love of the X-Men, you sacrificed your life. For the love of me, you resurrected yourself. For the love of the whole universe, you almost died a second time to save it. Know nothing of love, Jean? You are love! Your existence, your very creation, springs from love, from the noblest emotions a human can attain. And now, you want to deny that? To deny yourself?
Yes! No! I hunger, Scott, for a joy, a rapture beyond all comprehension. That need is a part of me, too. It consumes me. And this tactic is totally working. Like, she starts being like, oh my gosh, she starts kind of coming to. And while this is going on, Xavier sneaks up from behind and blasts her with a psychic bolt. And Scott's like, what are you doing? Xavier's like, get out of the way, Scott. I've got business to attend to. You've just signed your death warrant!
Perhaps, Phoenix, but I am in part responsible for what has happened here, though it may cost me my life. I will put it right.
Why, Professor, you almost sound guilty. As well you should. You unleashed my latent telepathic ability. You set in motion the chain of events that created the first Phoenix, and then Dark Phoenix. Behold your creation, Charles Xavier. I am what was, what is, what will be, the Black Angel, Chaos Bringer. I am power!
Power without restraint, knowledge without wisdom, age without maturity, passion without love. I must fight you, Jean. I must. I will win!
Will you? And now, Charles Xavier, Jean's surrogate father, engages with the Dark Phoenix in a psychic duel for the ages, where he must go inside her mind and repair all of the damage, much like Jean did inside the Imkron crystal. And keep in mind, this isn't the first time that Xavier has been inside Jean's mind. He repaired her mind after the Annie Richard incident when she was a child. He's been in her mind ever since. He knows her mind, totally. And so with the help of the good part of Jean's psyche, these two working together contain the power of the Phoenix. They put all these mental circuit breakers in there that cut her off completely from the power of the Phoenix. And it's a total success. Jean is no longer the Dark Phoenix. She's back to herself. She falls to the ground naked because since her Phoenix powers are gone, so is her Phoenix outfit. And Scott immediately runs up to her, checking to see if she's all right. He's afraid that she's dead, but she's still conscious. And he scoops her up in his arms. And they still have their psychic rapport, and he's thinking to himself,
She's so still. I'm not even sure she's still alive. I want her to live, but what if she hasn't changed? What if she's still Dark Phoenix? I'll love her just the same, till death do us part.
Hi.
Hi yourself.
If I didn't know better, I'd say those thoughts I just picked up sounded like a proposal.
They did, didn't they? What do you say, Red?
And then she totally accepts. Everyone is so happy and excited that all of this nonsense is over with, that they have their Jean back. Her parents even come out. Her father gives her his robe because, like I said, she's naked and all this stuff.
Here there, Jean. Take my robe, daughter, before you catch a cold.
Thanks, Dad. Oh dear, I don't believe it. Dad is blushing.
I can still hear you through our psychic rapport, Jean. How do you feel? Are you...
Cured? I think so. Thanks to the professor, I'm as cured as I'll ever be.
So all of the X-Men are now really relieved. They're ready for some downtime. They're ready to get ready for this marriage. They're so excited for this happy ending when out of nowhere, in front of Jean's parents, the entire X-Men are teleported away.
What?
I know, these X-Men, they just can't get a break, I know how that goes.
Teleported, but by who?
So now, in the final chapter of the Dark Phoenix Saga, the X-Men are teleported upon Lilandra's Imperial Dreadnought, where the Shi'ar Empire announces that due to her crimes of killing 5 billion people, Jean Grey has been sentenced to death.
X-Men, heed the words of Gladiator, praetor to the Imperial Guard. You stand in the presence of Lilandra, majestic Shi'ar Empress. Your fate is in her hands.
Lilandra, what's this all about? The X-Men were your friends. Why have you kidnapped us?
True, Cyclops, the X-Men are my friends. I owe you my life, my freedom, my throne, more than I can ever repay. But as Empress, my first responsibility is to my people. To ensure their safety, to ensure the safety of the entire universe, Phoenix must be destroyed!
Oh no.
Yeah, it's like that. It's serious. It's consequences for your actions, alright? Even if you're possessed by crazy dark side.
As I recall, Lilandra, Phoenix stopped your brother from single-handedly destroying the universe. Is this how you repay her?
We had no quarrel with Phoenix then, Cyclops. She seemed a beneficent entity. Though we suspected the full extent of her power and feared it, we did nothing. I believed that Jean could cope with her near-infinite abilities. I was wrong.
So now the X-Men try to desperately explain that Jean is healthy now, she's no longer the Dark Phoenix, they fixed her, but the Shi'ar Empire says that's not enough.
Oh no, what are they gonna do?
Much as I personally would wish things otherwise, X-Men, as Empress, I have no alternative. Surrender her, or suffer the consequences!
No! Lilandra, you're speaking of Dark Phoenix. That entity no longer exists. Her power is under control. She suffered enough. Let her be.
Suffered, Earthling? Tell that to the spirits of Dabari dead who cry out for vengeance.
But hold up! Since Xavier spent a lot of time with Lilandra and the Shi'ar Empire, he hung out in their libraries a lot and knows their laws. And he knows that there's a loophole, and he demands a trial by combat.
Oh my gosh, they have that?
Totally! And Lilandra cannot refuse. And so the X-Men are given a day to prepare for the ensuing battle.
I've got a bad feeling about this fight. Can the Professor really split the two entities apart? Suppressing Phoenix, leaving Jean? I hope so. But if push comes to shove, if I have to make a choice, I stand by Jeannie all the way.
For all Beast's bravado, I have a nasty feeling this may be the battle where our luck runs out. When we X-Men fought Dark Phoenix, we were not trying to destroy her, but cure her. We fought out of love. That has not changed.
Today's contest is not a duel to the death, but in trying to save Jean, one of us, or all of us, might die. Damn it isn't fair. After all we've been through, after all the good that Jean's done, to have it end like this. I guess that's what the people on Dabari thought when their sun exploded. I've been a leader too long. I can see Lilandra's position as clearly as my own. You're dressed as Marvel Girl, but why?
I'm not sure. Nostalgia? Pride? I started as Marvel Girl, and that's how I'll finish. Scott, am I worth it? I destroyed a world. In my mind, I can still hear the screams of the dying, and it felt good. I don't want that feeling ever again, and yet I do.
I know, but to give up? That'd be like saying that Dark Phoenix has won. That you're evil. You're not. Jean, whatever happens, know that I love you. I stand by you.
And I you, Scott, with all my heart.
The next day, they're teleported to the blue side of the moon where the battle will take place.
What is the blue side of the moon?
Yes, our moon. It's our moon. And apparently inside the Luthor crater of our moon, there's this area called the Blue Side, which was created by the Skrulls, Kotari, and the Kree about 1 million years ago. It is filled with an ancient alien ruined city that has all this ancient alien technology in it. And most importantly, it has a breathable atmosphere. And it's also where Owatu the Watcher lives.
People know about it?
A lot of superheroes know about the blue side of the moon, but the general populace of Earth does not.
I wish you well, X-Men. Today I must play the role of executioner, yet I would give anything to be fighting by your side.
The X-Men face hopeless odds, Majestrix, but they are exceptional beings. Suppose they win.
They will not win, Araki. You have my word on that.
And it is here that the X-Men must fight the Imperial Guard for their second time, but that's not all. They also have some giant robots and even a Skrull and a Kree ambassador in the fight, because the Skrull and the Kree nations have also sentenced the Phoenix, because the Phoenix is like a threat to everyone in the universe, okay? Meanwhile, you have Lilandra and Charles Xavier, who are back on her Imperial cruise ship, watching helplessly from their monitors.
Sounds like the fight's starting without us.
Don't worry though, there are probably more than enough villains to go around.
You cannot hide from us, X-Men! You cannot escape!
Colossus, take him down!
That will be my pleasure, Tovaris!
Behold the reason why!
I've only just begun to show you what I can do!
We're holding our own, but that's about it! In a style, fame, and fear throughout the Empire! Wanna bet?
Don't try to hide from me, Nightcrawler.
But she spotted me, but
It will simply be a wasted effort.
This hefty jolt of electricity certainly took the bite out of your fuzzy friend in a hurry.
In fact, to get to any other members of the Imperial Guard, your push have to go through me!
No. Oh, my X-Men. I felt that you had a chance. I never dreamed things would end like this. Forgive me, my children. I know I will never forgive myself.
I want to comfort you, be with you in your hour of need, but I cannot. I am Empress. I must do my duty, no matter what it costs.
And as the battle ensues, the X-Men are taking a serious beating. And now only Jean and Scott are left on their feet, and they're getting ready to make their last stand.
You're a special man, Scott Summers.
No more special than the woman I love. Ready?
Ready.
Then let's go!
And in that moment, Jean sees Scott cut down, which freaks her out and shatters all of her psychic barriers, and she once again becomes the Phoenix. And as the Phoenix, she dispatches immediately all of her foes. The Imperial Guard are down for the count, so are the Skrulls, so are the Kree.
Captain, alert the Grand Fleet! Plan Omega! If we fail in our mission, burn this world, this system, this entire stellar cluster! Do whatever is necessary to ensure that Phoenix is destroyed!
And now it's up to the X-Men alone to stop the Phoenix. Xavier reaches out to them and he's like, you better get her now while her powers are still weak. And they do immediately. Cyclops blasts the building and all these stones fall on her. Storm sets a cyclone on her. And Wolverine even throws Colossus at her in a reverse fastball special since the gravity's lighter on the moon.
Like it or not, it's us, and maybe all humanity, or her!
Because he admits his love for Jean finally, and he asks Colossus to take care of killing her because Logan is afraid that he's gonna hesitate again, like last time. And unfortunately for him, Colossus is such a softie that he holds back as his fist connects with Phoenix's face. And she's actually kind of touched by his love for her. I mean, she's like, really? You pulled a punch on me? It was a really cute moment.
The Phoenix is a cosmic power. It can neither be contained nor controlled, especially by a human vessel. Return it to the cosmos, which is its home. Kill me!
No! It doesn't have to be like this! You have an intellect, Jean, a will, a soul. Use them! Fight the dark side of yourself. We'll help you!
But now, Jean can feel her power growing, and she can feel that she's starting to lose control again. And before she slips back into the Dark Phoenix persona entirely, she runs into one of the ancient alien structures as Cyclops runs after her. So Jean then pins Scott in place with her telekinetic powers, and she explains to him that she can't go on living with the knowledge of how many people that she's killed.
Your way, I'd have to stay completely in control of myself for every second of every day for the rest of my immortal life. If even one more person dies at my hands, it's better this way. Quick, clean, final. I love you, Scott. A part of me will always be with you.
Jean, no, don't! No!
And how she won't be able to ever guarantee control over her power. And she tells Scott that she loves him before setting off a disintegration ray from one of the forgotten weapons and allowing herself to be killed in front of the man she loves, saving the universe once more, only this time from herself. In the next issue, we witness the funeral of Jean Grey through the lens of Scott Summers, who thinks back on his relationship with her and recounts all of the many years of adventures they shared together as X-Men.
Please accept this gift. It is a holoempathic matrix crystal. Touch it, and you will not only see a three-dimensional image of Jean, but feel the essence of her personality as well. This way, a part of her will be with you always.
And when the funeral is over, Scott tells Xavier and the rest that he can't go back to the mansion with him, that the pain of this loss, this grief that he's carrying around is too great, and he has to go find some peace and sort himself out elsewhere for a little while. And as one door closes, another opens, as the very next day, Kitty Pryde shows up to the X-Mansion as their newest and youngest recruit. And so ends the Dark Phoenix saga. This story illustrates that despite their amazing abilities, these larger-than-life characters are just as susceptible to the same pitfalls as us very human readers. That absolute power corrupts absolutely, regardless of our best intentions. And the thing that I love most about the Dark Phoenix saga is the amount of respect and sincerity Chris Claremont shows not only to these characters, but also to his audience. He goes above and beyond, putting so much love and intelligence, so much drama and subtlety in a tale for his young readers, never writing down to them, not only trying to merely entertain them, but to consciously raise their awareness and, more importantly, the capacity for empathy.